Desperate, she signs the divorce papers in front of her family, unaware she is the daughter of the Mafia Boss. The pen feels heavier than it should. My fingers tremble as I stare at the document spread across the polished mahogany table, the black ink of the printed words blurring through the tears I refuse to let fall. Around me, the Whitmore family sits in perfect formation. Richard's mother with her pearl necklace and cold smile, his father adjusting his cufflinks as if this were merely another business transaction, and Richard himself, my husband of 7 years, watching me with those pale blue eyes that once promised me the world. "Sign it, Clara," he says, his voice flat. "We don't have all day." I swallow hard. The conference room of their family attorney's office smells of leather and old money, scents I once found comforting, back when I believed I belonged here. Back when I thought love was enough to bridge the gap between a girl raised in foster care and a dynasty built on generations of wealth. "You're doing the right thing," Margaret Whitmore adds, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "This marriage was never going to work. We all knew it. You simply weren't suited for this family." 7 years. 7 years of trying to be enough. 7 years of swallowing my pride, of learning which fork to use at dinner parties, of smiling through comments about my unknown origins, my lack of pedigree, my questionable blood. 7 years of loving a man who, I realize now, never truly loved me back. "The terms are generous," the attorney interjects, sliding a separate document toward me. "Mr. Whitmore has agreed to a settlement of $50,000, provided you sign immediately and agree to the confidentiality clause." $50,000. That's what my marriage is worth to them. That's what I'm worth. I think of our apartment. Richard's apartment, I remind myself, since my name was never on the lease. I think of my small graphic design business that I built from nothing, the clients I cultivated, the reputation I earned despite the Whitmore family's subtle sabotage at every turn. I think of the miscarriage 3 years ago, the one Richard blamed on my stress, my inadequacy, my failure to give him an heir. "Clara," Richard's voice sharpens, "we have reservations at the Capitol Grill at 7. Sign the papers." I look up at him, really look at him, for the first time in months. He's handsome, I suppose, in that polished, privileged way that photographs well at charity galas, but there's nothing behind those eyes. No warmth, no depth, just the cold calculation of a man who views everything, including his wife, as an asset or a liability. I am, clearly, a liability. "Fine," I whisper, and the word tastes like surrender. The pen moves across the page. Clara Whitmore. No, Clara Santos. I write my maiden name, the name I chose for myself when I aged out of the foster system at 18, the name of no one and everyone, a placeholder for the identity I never had. The moment the ink dries, something shifts in the room. Margaret Whitmore's smile widens. Richard's father nods once, satisfied. Richard himself reaches for his phone, already moving on, already forgetting. But I feel it, a strange lightness in my chest, a loosening of chains I didn't know I was wearing. The marriage is over. The pretense is finished. I am no longer Clara Whitmore, acceptable only when silent and invisible. I am Clara Santos again, whoever that might be. "The funds will be transferred within 72 hours, the attorney says, gathering the documents. "Per the agreement, you have 48 hours to vacate the residence and remove your personal belongings. Mr. Whitmore will be staying at the family estate during that time to avoid any unpleasantness." Unpleasantness, as if my existence is an inconvenience to be scheduled around. I stand, and my legs feel steadier than I expected. I understand. Clara. Margaret rises too, and for a moment, something almost human flickers across her face. "A word of advice, dear. Go somewhere far away. Start fresh. Forget you ever knew this family. It will be better for everyone." There's something in her tone, a warning perhaps, or a threat disguised as concern. I don't understand it, and right now I don't care to. Goodbye, Mrs. Whitmore. I walk out of that conference room with nothing but my purse and the clothes on my back. The elevator descends 17 floors, and with each passing number, I feel myself fragmenting and reforming, becoming someone new, The lobby is all marble and glass, reflecting a woman I barely recognize, thin from months of anxiety, dark circles under brown eyes that used to sparkle, chestnut hair pulled back in a severe bun that Margaret always insisted was more appropriate. Outside, Boston in October hits me with a gust of cold wind that steals my breath. I stand on the sidewalk as people rush past, their lives continuing uninterrupted while mine lies, in pieces at my feet. I have 48 hours to pack up 7 years. I have $50,000 that won't last long in this city. I have no family, no close friends. Richard made sure of that over the years, slowly isolating me until the Whitmores were all I had. And now I have nothing. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Ms. Santos, we need to meet. It concerns your biological family. This is not a scam. Please come to the address below at your earliest convenience. Ask for Vincent. I stare at the screen, my heart suddenly pounding. My biological family. Those words have haunted me my entire life. I was found as an infant, abandoned at a fire station in Chicago, with nothing but a blanket and a silver locket I've worn ever since. No note, no name, no explanation. The foster system had no answers, no records, nothing. I was a ghost before I was even a person. I should delete this message. I should walk away, find a cheap hotel, start figuring out my next move. This is obviously a scam. Someone who saw the divorce announcement in the society pages and decided to prey on a vulnerable woman. But my thumb hovers over the address instead of the delete button. Something in my chest, that same something that loosened when I signed those papers, pulls me forward. The address is in the North End, Boston's oldest neighborhood, where Italian restaurants crowd narrow streets and history bleeds from every brick. I take the T, watching my reflection in the dark window as the train rattles through tunnels. The woman staring back at me looks lost, scared, but also strangely curious. The building is unassuming, a brownstone wedged between a bakery and an antique shop, its facade weathered but dignified. There's no sign, no indication of what lies within, just a heavy wooden door with a brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. I knock before I can talk myself out of it. The door opens to reveal a man in his 60s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit. His eyes, dark and sharp, scan me from head to toe with an intensity that makes me want to step back. "Ms. Santos," he says, and his voice is surprisingly gentle. "I'm Vincent. Thank you for coming. Please, follow me." The interior is nothing like I expected. Where the outside suggested age and decay, the inside speaks of quiet power. Polished hardwood floors, original artwork on the walls, the subtle scent of expensive cigars, and something else, something floral, like roses. Vincent leads me through a series of rooms, each more elegant than the last, until we reach a study lined with books from floor to ceiling. A fire crackles in a massive stone fireplace, and sitting in a leather armchair beside it is a man. He rises as I enter, and the breath catches in my throat. He's tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that seems to fill the room without trying. His hair is dark, threaded with silver at the temples, and his face is all sharp angles and shadows. But it's his eyes that stop me cold. They're brown, not just any brown, my brown. The exact shade I see every time I look in the mirror. "Clara," he says, and his voice breaks on my name. "My God, you look just like her." "I'm sorry," I manage, my voice barely a whisper. "Who are you? What is this?" The man takes a step toward me, then stops, as if afraid he might frighten me away. "My name is Dominic Caruso, and I've been searching for you for 32 years. The room tilts. I reach for the nearest chair, gripping its back to steady myself. "I don't understand. You were taken from us," Dominic says, and there's a rawness in his voice that cuts through my confusion. "Stolen from your crib when you were 6 months old. Your mother, she never recovered. She passed 5 years ago, still hoping, still praying we'd find you." "That's impossible." The words come out sharper than I intend. "I was abandoned, left at a fire station. There were no records because they were destroyed." Vincent speaks now, moving to stand beside Dominic. The people who took you went to great lengths to ensure you could never be traced. It took us decades to unravel the truth. I shake my head, backing toward the door. This is insane. You can't just claim you have no proof. The locket, Dominic says quietly. The silver locket you're wearing right now. It has a rose engraved on one side and initials on the other. E.C., your mother's initials, Elena Caruso. My hand flies to my chest, to the familiar weight of the locket I've worn since before memory. How could he know? I've never shown it to anyone, never opened it. It was fused shut when they found me, and I was always too afraid to force it, afraid of what I might lose if I broke the only connection to whoever I was. Let me show you something, Dominic continues, crossing to a desk in the corner. He opens a drawer and removes a photograph, holding it out to me with trembling hands. I take it, and the world stops. The woman in the photograph could be me. Not similar, identical. The same heart-shaped face, the same full lips, the same dark eyes with that peculiar golden ring around the pupil that I always thought was just a quirk of my genetics. She's holding a baby, and around her neck hangs a silver locket. Elena, Dominic whispers, your mother. And you, 6 months before you were taken. I sink into the chair, the photograph clutched against my chest. The tears I held back in the attorney's office finally fall, but they're not tears of grief or defeat. They're something else entirely. Release, maybe. Recognition. Why? I ask through the sobs. Why was I taken? Who did this? Dominic's face hardens, and for the first time, I see something dangerous beneath the grief. That's a complicated question, Clara, one that requires you to understand who we are, who you are. What do you mean? He exchanges a look with Vincent, some silent communication passing between them. Then he turns back to me and his eyes are gentle again, almost apologetic. The Caruso family has operated in Boston for 3 generations. We are influential, powerful. And with that power comes enemies, people who would do anything to hurt us, including taking an innocent child. Influential, powerful. The words settle into my consciousness, like stones dropping into still water. I've read enough, watched enough movies, understood enough about Boston's history to recognize what he's not saying. You're talking about organized crime, I say flatly. You're telling me I'm the daughter of a mob boss. I'm telling you that you're my daughter. Dominic's voice is firm but kind. Everything else is context. You don't have to accept any of it. You don't have to be part of this world. But I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to know that you were loved, that you were never abandoned. You were stolen, Clara, and not a single day has passed in 32 years when I didn't pray for your return. I stare at this man, this stranger who claims to be my father. Part of me wants to run, to flee back to the familiar misery of my old life, where at least I understood the rules. But another part, a deeper part, recognizes something in him, something that feels like home. I just signed divorce papers, I hear myself say, an hour ago. My husband's family spent 7 years making me feel like I was nothing because I didn't know where I came from. Dominic's jaw tightens. The Whitmores. It's not a question. You know them. I know of them. Old money built on older secrets. His eyes flash. They treated you poorly. They treated me like I was disposable. The bitterness in my voice surprises me. Like I should be grateful they let me exist in their orbit at all. Dominic is silent for a long moment. Then he crosses the room and kneels before my chair, taking my hands in his. His grip is warm, steady, nothing like Richard's cold, perfunctory touches. You are not disposable, he says, each word deliberate. You are Clara Caruso. You are my blood, my air, my miracle. And if the Whitmores hurt you, they will answer for it. Not through violence, that's not what I want for you, but through the only language people like them understand. Power. I should be terrified. This man is essentially admitting to being a criminal, offering to use his criminal empire to avenge my wounded pride. But sitting here, in this warm study with the fire crackling and my father's hands holding mine, I feel something I haven't felt in 7 years. Safe. I don't know what to do, I admit. I don't know who to be. You don't have to decide tonight. Dominic releases my hands and stands. You have a home here, Clara. A family. When you're ready, we'll talk more. For now, let Vincent show you to a room, rest, eat, and tomorrow we'll begin again. I nod, too exhausted to argue. As Vincent leads me from the study, I pause at the door and look back at my father. My father, what a strange and wonderful word. Mr. Caruso, Dominic. He turns, hope naked in his eyes. Thank you for finding me. His smile transforms his face, softening all those hard angles into something almost boyish. Thank you for letting me. The room Vincent shows me to is more beautiful than any space I've ever occupied. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden, a four-poster bed draped in silk the color of champagne. On the dresser, someone has placed fresh flowers, roses, I notice, with a strange twist in my chest, and a silver tray with tea and pastries. I stand in the center of this impossible room, this impossible night, and try to make sense of everything that's happened. This morning, I was Clara Whitmore, failed wife, perpetual disappointment, woman without a past. Tonight, I am Clara Caruso, daughter of a crime lord, heir to an empire I never knew existed. The locket feels heavy against my skin. I pull it over my head and examine it properly for the first time in years. The rose engraving is delicate, almost worn away by time and touch. And there on the other side, just as Dominic said, E.C. Elena Caruso, my mother, a woman who loved me, who searched for me, who died without ever seeing my face again. I curl up on the bed, still dressed, the locket pressed against my heart. Outside, Boston continues its relentless rhythm, sirens, traffic, the distant sound of laughter from the restaurants below. But in here, in this room that already feels more like home than anywhere I've ever lived, there is only silence. And for the first time in years, the silence doesn't feel lonely. It feels like a beginning. Check if you're already subscribed to this channel. Stories that change your heart like this don't come often. Subscribe now so you never miss a moment of emotional revelation. I wake to the smell of coffee and the sound of rain against the windows. For a disorienting moment, I don't know where I am. The bed is too soft, the sheets too silky, the light, filtering through the curtains, too warm. Then memory returns in a rush and I sit up, heart pounding. I am in Dominic Caruso's home. I am, apparently, his daughter. A soft knock at the door makes me jump. Miss Caruso, are you awake? Miss Caruso. The name sounds foreign, impossible. Yes, come in. Vincent enters carrying a tray laden with breakfast, fresh fruit, croissants, eggs perfectly scrambled, and a pot of coffee that smells like heaven. He sets it on the table by the window with the efficiency of someone who's done this thousands of times. Your father requests your company in the study when you're ready, he says. No rush. He understands you've been through a great deal. Vincent. I stop him before he can leave. How long has he been looking for me, really? His face softens, and for a moment I see past the professional exterior to the man beneath. Since the night you were taken, he hired investigators, offered rewards, followed every lead, no matter how unlikely. When your mother passed, many thought he would give up. Instead, he doubled his efforts. Finding you became his purpose, Ms. Caruso. The only thing that kept him going. I swallow hard. And my mother, what was she like? Elena was... Vincent pauses, searching for words. She was light, pure, genuine light. She loved music, gardening, cooking. She would sing while she worked. Italian folk songs her grandmother taught her. When you were born, she said you were her miracle. And when you were taken... He trails off and I see grief flicker across his features. She never stopped believing. Even at the end, she told Dominic she knew you were alive somewhere. She made him promise to never stop searching. The tears come again, and I don't try to stop them. 32 years of not knowing, of wondering, of constructing fantasies about parents who abandoned me, and all along there was a mother who loved me desperately, who died with my name on her lips. I'll leave you to eat, Vincent says gently. Take all the time you need. After he's gone, I force myself to eat, knowing I'll need strength for whatever comes next. The food is extraordinary, clearly prepared by someone with real skill, but I barely taste it. My mind is elsewhere, spinning through questions I don't know how to ask. When I finally make my way to the study, I find Dominic sitting in the same chair as last night. But he's not alone. A younger man stands by the window, silhouetted against the grey morning light. He turns as I enter, and I'm struck by how different he looks from Dominic. Fair where my father is dark, lean where Dominic is broad, but there's something familiar in his bearing, a certain coiled readiness that speaks of training and discipline. Clara. Dominic rises, and his smile is warm despite the shadows under his eyes. I hope you rested well. This is Marco Vittori, my advisor and closest confidant. He's been instrumental in the search for you. Marco approaches, and up close I can see that he's perhaps a few years older than me, with sharp green eyes and a scar that traces along his jawline. He extends his hand, and his grip is firm but not aggressive. Ms. Caruso, he says, and his voice is deeper than I expected, with a faint accent I can't place. It's an honor to finally meet you. Your father has spoken of nothing else for years. Please call me Clara. I extract my hand, unsettled by the intensity of his gaze. I'm not sure I've earned the Caruso name yet. You were born with it, Dominic says firmly. It's yours by right. We settle into chairs around the fireplace, and Vincent appears with more coffee, as if summoned by magic. I wrap my hands around the warm cup, grounding myself in the sensation. You said last night that we would talk more today, I begin. About who took me, about why. Dominic and Marco exchange a look, that same silent communication I noticed last night. Then my father sighs, suddenly looking every one of his years. The Caruso family has controlled certain operations in Boston for 3 generations, he says carefully. When I was young, we were involved in activities that I'm not proud of, but over the past 20 years, I've worked to legitimize our business interests. Real estate, restaurants, import-export. The family is still powerful, still respected, but we've distanced ourselves from the more dangerous aspects of our history. But you still have enemies, I say. It's not a question. Yes. Old rivals who resent our success, law enforcement who don't trust our transformation, and the Moretti family, our primary competitors for decades, who never forgave us for the territory we claimed before I was even born. Marco leans forward. 32 years ago, the Morettis were desperate. They'd lost ground, lost money, lost influence. Antonio Moretti, the boss at the time, decided that hitting Dominic where it hurt most would bring us to our knees. They took you as leverage, Dominic continues, his voice rough. They planned to ransom you back to us, to force concessions, territory, payment. But something went wrong. The men they sent, young, stupid, eager to prove themselves, panicked. Instead of bringing you to Moretti, they ran. We believe they intended to sell you on the black market, but somewhere along the way they got scared and abandoned you instead. The room feels cold despite the fire. They just left me, a baby, at a fire station in Chicago, far from anyone who might recognize you or trace you back to us. Dominic's hands clench on his knees. We searched for years in Boston, never imagining they'd taken you so far. By the time we expanded our search, the trail was ice cold. I process this slowly, turning each piece over in my mind. What happened to the men who took me? Silence. Then Marco speaks, his voice flat. They were never found. They disappeared completely. New identities, new countries perhaps. Or perhaps something else. Something else. The implication hangs in the air, and I decide I don't want to know more. Not yet. And the Morettis now? I ask. Are they still a threat? Antonio Moretti died in prison 15 years ago, Dominic says. His son Luca runs the family now. We have an understanding, a truce. But blood debts don't disappear easily, Clara. The Morettis know that your return changes the balance of power. How so? Dominic hesitates. When you were taken, your mother and I never had another child. We couldn't. The grief, the trauma, it broke something in both of us. For 32 years, the Caruso family has had no heir. When I die, everything passes to a council of advisors. But with you, with me, there's a future, I finish. Continuity. More than that. Marco's voice is careful. Your return is symbolic. It proves that the Carusos don't give up. It proves that even our greatest wound can heal. In our world, perception is everything. Your existence changes the story people tell about us. I stand abruptly, moving to the window. The rain has intensified, streaking down the glass like tears. On the street below, people hurry past under umbrellas, living their ordinary lives, while I grapple with truths that feel like fiction. I don't know anything about your world, I say without turning around. I was raised in foster care. I studied graphic design. I married a man from old money who made me feel small every day for 7 years. I'm not equipped for any of this. You don't have to be. Dominic's voice is closer now. He's crossed the room to stand beside me. I don't want you to take over the family business, Clara. I don't want you involved in the parts of our world that require hard decisions. I want you to have the life you should have had, safe, comfortable, full of choices, but I also want you to know who you are, where you come from, and I want to protect you, because for 32 years, I couldn't. I turn to face him, and I see in his eyes a father's love, pure and desperate and terrified of losing me again. It's a look I've never received before, not from the parade of foster families, not from Richard, not from anyone. It breaks something inside me and heals something else. I need time, I say, to understand all of this, to figure out who I am. You have all the time in the world. Dominic touches my cheek gently. And while you figure it out, you have a home, a family. You'll never be alone again, Clara. I promise you that. The next few weeks blur, together in a haze of adjustment and discovery. I learn the rhythms of the Caruso household, the early morning espresso that Dominic takes in the garden regardless of weather, the formal dinners where distant cousins and business associates come to pay respects, the quiet evenings when my father tells me stories about my mother and shows me photograph after photograph of a life I should have lived. I learn that the Caruso compound is not just the brownstone, but an entire block of connected properties, including a restaurant that serves as a legitimate business front, an import company specializing in Italian wines and olive oils, and a series of residential buildings where family and trusted employees live. It's a self-contained world, insulated from the chaos of the city, but not immune to it. I learn about Marco, too. He's not family by blood. His parents were loyal employees who died when he was young, and Dominic raised him alongside the ghost of me, training him to be the son. He couldn't have. There's a tension between us that I don't fully understand, a push and pull that leaves me unsettled after every conversation. He watches me with those sharp green eyes, and I can never tell if he's protecting me or assessing me. I learn that leaving the compound alone is complicated, not forbidden exactly, but heavily discouraged. When I want to visit my old apartment to collect my things, a team of 3 men accompanies me, their presence both reassuring and claustrophobic. The apartment feels small now, sad, a monument to a marriage that was never more than an arrangement for both parties. I take only what matters: my computer, my design files, my clothes, and a few mementos from my time in foster care. Everything else, I leave behind. I learn that the Whitmores have not taken my departure gracefully. Richard, I hear through whispers I'm not supposed to catch, has been telling everyone that I left him for another man. His mother has been more creative, suggesting that I was always unstable, perhaps even dangerous. The society pages pick up the story, and for a few terrible days, my face is everywhere: the gold digger, the social climber, the woman who tried and failed to infiltrate Boston's elite. The irony of it all is almost unbearable. They mocked me for having no family, no pedigree, no bloodline worth mentioning. And now I discover that my bloodline is older and more powerful than theirs ever was. It's on the 4th week that everything changes. I'm in my room, working on a freelance design project for a client who doesn't know about my newly complicated life, when Vincent knocks with more urgency than usual. Ms. Caruso, your father needs you in the study, immediately. The study is full when I arrive, not just Dominic and Marco, but a dozen men I don't recognize, all of them looking at me with expressions that range from curious to hostile. My father stands at the center, and his face is carved from stone. What's happening? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. The Morettis know you're alive. Marco moves to stand beside me, and I'm grateful for his solid presence. Luca Moretti has requested a meeting. A meeting? About what? Dominic's jaw tightens. He claims he wants to bury the past, to acknowledge your return and ensure peace between our families. But Luca is a snake and I don't trust him. Then refuse, I say. Don't meet with him. It's not that simple. This from one of the men I don't know, older with a weathered face and hard eyes. Refusing a request for parley is an act of aggression. It could reignite conflicts that have been dormant for years. So you're going to meet with him? We are going to meet with him. Dominic's voice is heavy. He specifically requested that you be present, Clara. He wants to see Eleanor's daughter with his own eyes. The room goes cold. Why? Because your existence changes everything. Marco's voice is flat. Because he wants to take your measure. Because in our world, looking someone in the eye tells you more than 1,000 intelligence reports. And because, Dominic adds quietly, he may be planning something. I need you there so I can see how he reacts to you. Your presence will reveal his true intentions in ways mine cannot. I look around the room, at these hard-faced men who have accepted me as their leader's daughter, at Marco, whose expression is unreadable, at my father, whose fear for me is evident in every line of his body. A month ago, I was signing divorce papers and contemplating which cheap motel would take me. Now I'm being asked to participate in a meeting between two crime families. My presence a strategic tool in a game I don't know how to play. And yet, something in me rises to the challenge. Maybe it's the Caruso blood finally making itself known. Maybe it's the years of being underestimated by the Whitmores, of being treated as less than, of being told I didn't belong. Maybe it's just the simple, fierce desire to stand beside my father and show the world that I am not disposable. When? I ask. Dominic's eyes meet mine, and I see surprise there, followed by something that looks like pride. Tomorrow evening. The neutral ground is a restaurant in Cambridge. You'll be safe. We'll have our people everywhere, but you need to understand the risk. I understand. I straighten my spine. I'll be ready. The meeting takes place in a private room at an Italian restaurant that feels caught between two eras, exposed brick, and crystal chandeliers, modern art alongside antique mirrors. Dominic sits at my right, Marco at my left, and across the table, Luca Moretti holds court with his own advisors. He's younger than I expected, mid-40s perhaps, with the kind of carefully cultivated handsomeness that speaks of expensive grooming and quiet vanity. His eyes are pale, almost colorless, and when they land on me, they widen with something I can't identify. Clara Caruso, he says, and his voice is smooth as silk. The lost daughter returned from the grave. You look exactly like your mother. So I'm told. I keep my voice neutral. I understand you wanted to meet me. I wanted to pay my respects. Luca spreads his hands. What happened 32 years ago was unfortunate. The actions of desperate men who are long gone. I hope we can move past it. Your father ordered my kidnapping, I say, and the table goes silent. Men under his command took me from my crib and destroyed my family. That's not unfortunate, Mr. Moretti. That's a choice. Luca's smile doesn't waver, but something shifts in his eyes. I am not my father, Ms. Caruso. Just as you, it seems, are not the naive woman you appear to be. Clara, Dominic says quietly, a warning. But I'm not done. Something has awakened in me, something that refuses to play polite while sitting across from the family that stole my life. I don't know your world, Mr. Moretti. I don't know its rules or its rituals or its history beyond what I've learned in the past month, but I know this. I spent 32 years as no one. I will not spend another day apologizing for existing. The silence stretches. Then Luca laughs, a genuine sound, warm and surprised. "Dominic," he says, never taking his eyes off me. "Your daughter is magnificent. Perhaps the Morettis did you a favor by forging her in fire instead of coddling her in silk." I feel Marco tense beside me, but before he can speak, Luca continues. "Very well, Ms. Caruso. Let us be honest with each other. I did not request this meeting merely to pay respects. I have a proposal." Dominic's voice is ice. "Speak." "The old ways are dying," Luca says, leaning back. "Conflict between our families benefits no one. I propose a formal truce, sealed in the way our ancestors once favored." His pale eyes slide to me. "A marriage alliance." The word drops like a stone into still water. I feel my father's hand clench under the table, feel Marco go rigid beside me, feel my own pulse thunder in my ears. "You cannot be serious," Dominic says, and his voice is deadly quiet. "I am entirely serious. My nephew, Gianni, is of appropriate age. A union between him and Clara would unite our families, end generations of bloodshed, and signal to our competitors that we are stronger together than apart." Luca smiles. "It's merely business, Dominic. Surely you understand." I am on my feet before I realize I've moved. I am not a bargaining chip. I am not a business deal. I am not a prize to be traded for peace. Luca's smile fades. "You are Dominic Caruso's daughter. In our world, that makes you all of those things. Then your world is broken." I lean forward, bracing my hands on the table, and I will not be part of fixing it through my own submission. For a long moment, no one moves. Then Dominic stands and his presence fills the room. "My daughter has given you her answer, Luca. The Carusos will not be purchasing peace with her freedom. We never have, and we never will." Luca's expression hardens. "You're making a mistake, old friend. I came here in good faith." "You came here to probe for weakness." Dominic's voice is iron. "And you found none. This meeting is over." We leave with our heads high and our hearts pounding. In the car, surrounded by guards, my father takes my hand. "I'm proud of you," he says quietly. "Your mother would have been proud too." But I can see the worry in his eyes, the fear that we've just made a dangerous enemy of a man who was supposed to be a reluctant ally. The rain starts again as we drive through the night streets of Boston, and I stare out the window at the blurred lights, wondering what comes next. Whatever it is, I know one thing for certain. I will not be traded. I will not be sold. I am Clara Caruso, daughter of a Don, and I will choose my own destiny. The days following the meeting are tense. Security doubles around the compound. Dominic spends hours in closed-door meetings with his advisors, emerging looking older each time. Marco shadows my every movement, his presence a constant reminder that the world has shifted, that I am no longer just a woman rediscovering her past. I am a player in a game I barely understand. It's 3 weeks after the meeting when I find my father in the garden, standing in the rain without an umbrella. He doesn't seem to notice the water soaking through his jacket. His eyes are fixed on a single rosebush, its blooms wilting in the October chill. "Your mother planted these," he says, when I join him, holding an umbrella over both of us. "The week before you were born, she said they would bloom every year to remind us of new beginnings. Tell me about her." I slip my arm through his. "Not the sadness. Tell me about who she was before." Dominic is silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he begins to speak. He tells me about meeting Elena at a family wedding when they were both 19. She, the daughter of a respected family from Napoli. He, the heir to an empire he didn't want. He tells me about their first date, when she dragged him to a jazz club in the village and made him dance until his feet ached. He tells me about their wedding, small and private, just family and the closest friends. About the 3 years they tried and failed to have children. About the day the doctor told them I was coming, and Eleanor cried for an hour straight with joy. She was my everything, Dominic says finally. When they took you, they took the best part of both of us. She never stopped believing you'd come home. Even at the end, she made me promise. She said, Dominic, our girl is out there. Bring her home. I squeeze his arm tighter. I'm here now. You are. He turns to face me, and there are tears mixing with the rain on his face. And I will protect you with everything I have. No matter what Luca Moretti threatens, no matter what the future holds, you are my daughter. You are home, and I will never let anyone take you away again. We stand there in the rain, father and daughter, 32 years of separation condensing into a single moment of connection. And despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the world I've been thrust into, I feel something I haven't felt in longer than I can remember. Peace. That peace shatters the following week. I'm working in the study. Dominic has given me a corner to set up my design equipment, insisting that I continue my work, maintain my independence, when Marco bursts through the door without knocking. We have a problem. His face is pale, his eyes wild. The Morettis have made a move. Dominic is on his feet instantly. What kind of move? They've acquired majority shares in 3 of our legitimate businesses. They did it through shell companies, offshore accounts. We didn't see it coming until it was done. Marco runs a hand through his hair. They're not attacking our operations. They're attacking our future. The implications hit me even before they've fully explained. The legitimate businesses, the ones Dominic has spent 20 years building, are the path forward. They're how the family transitions from shadow to sunlight, from crime to commerce. If the Morettis control them, they're not trying to destroy us, I say slowly. They're trying to own us. Both men turn to look at me. It's leverage, I continue, thinking out loud. If they control the legitimate businesses, Dominic has 2 choices. Return to the old ways, or let the Morettis dictate terms. Either way, the family loses. Dominic's face is grim. She's right. Luca isn't interested in war, he's interested in control. Then we take it back. Marco's voice is fierce. We know people, we have resources. The acquisitions are legal, Dominic interrupts. Perfectly executed. Even if we could prove Moretti was behind them, there's nothing illegal about buying stock. So what do we do? The silence is heavy. I watch my father's face, seeing the wheels turn, the calculations being made. He's spent a lifetime navigating these waters, balancing power and pragmatism, force and strategy. But this is different. This is personal. We negotiate, Dominic says finally. We find out what Luca really wants and see if there's a price that doesn't involve my daughter. And if there isn't, Dominic's eyes are hard, then we find another way. The second meeting happens in neutral territory again, but the dynamic has shifted. Luca Moretti sits across from us with the air of a man holding all the cards, his nephew Gianni at his side, young, handsome, and watching me with an intensity that makes my skin crawl. Dominic, Luca says pleasantly, I'm glad you reached out. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten how to negotiate. What do you want, Luca? I thought I made myself clear. Luca's eyes slide to me. I want unity. I want an end to decades of conflict. I want a future where Carusos and Morettis stand together instead of bleeding each other dry. And the businesses? Luca waves a hand. Dismissively. Insurance. A demonstration of what we can accomplish when we put our minds to it. I'm perfectly willing to return control for a reasonable consideration. Name it. The marriage alliance stands. Luca leans forward and his pleasantness drops away, revealing the predator beneath. Clara and Gianni united before the end of the year. Once the union is formalized, the businesses revert to Caruso control and our families move forward as partners. I open my mouth to refuse, but Dominic's hand on my arm stops me. And if we decline, then the businesses remain mine, and perhaps I look into acquiring more. You've built quite an empire, Dominic, quite a vulnerable empire, now that I know where to push. Luca's smile returns. I'm not your enemy. I'm offering you a gift, peace, prosperity, legacy. All I ask in return is Clara's hand for my nephew. Gianni speaks for the first time. Clara, His voice is soft, almost gentle. I know this seems cold, transactional, but I would treat you well. I would give you everything you could want. Is that really so terrible? I meet his eyes and I see that he means it. He's not cruel, not monstrous, just a young man trapped in the same world I've just discovered, playing by rules he didn't write. Part of me wants to pity him, but pity is not enough to build a life on. I'm sure you're a decent person, I say carefully, but I won't marry someone because I'm forced to. That's not a marriage. That's a prison. Luca's expression flickers. You speak as if you have options. I have choices. I straighten in my chair. Maybe not good ones, but choices nonetheless, and I choose not to be traded like property. Clara, Dominic's voice is strained. Let me handle this. No. The word comes out stronger than I intended. No, because this isn't just about business or territory or power. This is about me, my life, my future, and I refuse to let it be decided by men in boardrooms. I turn to Luca, and somewhere, deep inside, I find a courage I didn't know I possessed. You want peace? Real peace? Then let's talk about what that actually looks like. Not forced marriages and hostile takeovers, but genuine partnership, equal terms, respect. Luca laughs softly. And what would you know about our world, girl? You've been here barely 2 months. I know enough. I hold his gaze. I know that the old ways are dying because they don't work anymore. I know that the next generation, Johnny, me, all the sons and daughters waiting in the wings, we don't want to spend our lives fighting wars our grandparents started. And I know that if you really wanted peace, you wouldn't be holding a gun to my family's head to get it. The room is silent. Gianni is staring at me with something that might be admiration. Marco's hand hovers near his concealed weapon, and Dominic, my father, who has protected me, welcomed me, loved me since the moment I returned, watches with an expression I can't read. Finally, Luca speaks. You're interesting, Clara Caruso. More interesting than I expected. He stands slowly, buttoning his jacket. I'll give you time to consider. 1 month. At the end of that month, I expect an answer. Marriage and partnership, or war and ruin. The choice is yours. He leaves with Gianni trailing behind, and in the wake of their departure, I feel my legs begin to tremble. Marco catches my arm before I can stumble. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, he murmurs. Probably both. I manage a weak smile. Did I just make everything worse? Dominic crosses to me, and his expression finally resolves into something I can understand. Fierce, overwhelming pride. No, Clara. You just showed Luca Moretti exactly who he's dealing with. He cups my face in his hands. Your mother would have done the same thing. She never backed down from anyone. The tears come then. All the tension and fear and strange exhilaration of the past hour flooding out at once. My father holds me while I cry, and Marco stands guard at the door, and somewhere outside Luca Moretti is recalculating his strategy. I have bought us a month. 1 month to find another way. 1 month to prove that I am more than a pawn, more than a bargaining chip, more than the sum of my father's power and my mother's legacy. 1 month to save my family. If you've made it this far in this story and feel something stirring in your heart, pause for a moment. In the comments, leave a single word. Strength. Show me that you too believe love can conquer fear. The month passes in a blur of strategy sessions and sleepless nights. I throw myself into learning everything I can about both families, their histories, their businesses, their connections, until my eyes burn from reading documents, and my mind swims with names and dates and grudges that span generations. Marco becomes my unofficial teacher, guiding me through the labyrinth of alliances and enmities that define this world. We spend hours together in the library, our heads bent over charts and reports, our conversations shifting from professional to personal and back again. You're a quick study, he tells me one evening, watching as I map out the web of Moretti subsidiaries. Most people take years to understand what you've absorbed in weeks. I don't have years. I don't look up from my work. I have 3 weeks. Less if Luca decides to move early. He won't. Luca respects tradition, even when he's breaking it. The Deadline is sacred. I finally meet his eyes. You sound almost admiring. Marco shrugs. Know your enemy. It's the first rule of survival. Is that what you're teaching me? Survival? I'm teaching you how to win. He leans closer, and I catch the scent of his cologne, something woodsy and warm that I've grown to associate with safety. The Carusos have survived for 3 generations by being smart, not strong, by finding solutions that don't require bloodshed. That's what your father built. That's what you're inheriting. I don't want to inherit anything. The words come out sharper than I intend. I just want to live my life, have a career, maybe fall in love, build something that's mine, not be a pawn in someone else's game. Marco is quiet for a long moment. Then he reaches out and covers my hand with his. You're not a pawn, Clara. You never were. A pawn doesn't talk back to Luca Moretti. A pawn doesn't make demands at negotiating tables. A pawn doesn't... He trails off, something shifting in his expression. Doesn't what? His jaw tightens. Doesn't make people see them as anything other than a piece to be moved. I stare at him, aware of the warmth of his hand on mine, the tension in the air between us. There's something happening here, something that has nothing to do with lessons or strategy or survival, and it terrifies me almost as much as Luca Moretti's deadline. Marco. He pulls back abruptly. It's late. You should rest. Tomorrow we're meeting with the Castellanos. Their traditional allies might have some leverage we can use. The moment is gone, but its residue lingers as I make my way to my room. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, and try to sort through the chaos of my emotions. Gratitude for my father, fear of the Morettis, uncertainty about the future, and something else, something warm and complicated and entirely inconvenient whenever Marco is near. The Castellanos are as traditional as Marco promised, an old Boston family with ties to construction, unions, and politicians. Isabella Castellano, the matriarch, receives us in her home like royalty, her sharp eyes taking my measure before we've exchanged more than pleasantries. So this is Elena's daughter, she says, her voice carrying the rasp of decades of cigarettes and hard decisions. I knew your mother. She was too good for this world. So everyone tells me. It's not a compliment. Isabella's smile is thin. Being too good in our world gets you killed. Or worse, it gets you forgotten while you wait for someone to save you. She turns to Dominic. You want my help against the Morettis. I want your advice, Dominic says carefully, and your perspective. You've known Luca since he was a boy. I've known all the Morettis since they were boys. Isabella waves us toward a sitting area laden with coffee and pastries. Vicious, every one of them. But Luca is the worst, because he learned to hide it. The others showed their teeth. Luca shows his smile, and that's when you know you're already bleeding. He's offered a marriage alliance, I say. His nephew Gianni for me. In exchange, he returns the businesses he's acquired. Isabella's eyes narrow. And you refused. I refused to be traded. To my surprise, the old woman laughs. A genuine, delighted sound. Oh, I like you. Your mother would have said the same thing. Damn the consequences. She sobers quickly. But liking you and helping you are different things. What do you have to offer in exchange for my support? Dominic opens his mouth, but I speak first. What do you want? Another surprised laugh. Direct. Good. What I want, Clara Caruso, is what I've always wanted. Stability. A city that runs smoothly, where business can be conducted without constant warfare. Your father has spent 20 years building toward that. Luca threatens it with his power plays. Then help us stop him. And how do you propose I do that? This is the moment I've been preparing for all month. The strategy I've developed in secret, running the numbers and the scenarios until I was sure it would work. I pull a folder from my bag and place it on the table between us. The Moretti's acquisition of our businesses was funded through loans, I explain. Large loans from banks that owe favors to specific families, including yours. Those loans come with conditions, including early repayment clauses that can be triggered by certain circumstances. Isabella's expression sharpens. You're talking about calling in debts. I'm talking about making the cost of holding our businesses higher than the cost of letting them go. I meet her eyes steadily. The Castellanos have influence in the financial sector. With a few phone calls, you could make Luca's power play economically unsustainable. Silence. Dominic is staring at me with something like awe. Marco's expression is unreadable, and Isabella Castellano is looking at me as if seeing me for the first time. You figured this out yourself? I had help. I nod toward Marco. But the analysis is mine. I'm a graphic designer, Mrs. Castellano, but I minored in business. I know how to read balance sheets. Isabella leans back, studying me. Then she picks up the folder and begins to page through it, her expression growing more impressed with each page. This is good work, she says finally. Better than good. This is the kind of work that wins wars without firing a shot. She looks up at Dominic. Your daughter is something special. I hope you know that. I'm beginning to realize. Very well. Isabella sets down the folder. I'll make the calls, but there's a price. Name it. When this is over, when Luca backs down and the businesses are secure, I want an alliance, a real one. The Carusos and the Castellanos bound together. Not by marriage, she adds, glancing at me, but by partnership, your legitimate businesses, combined with our political connections. A new way of doing things. Dominic considers this for a long moment. Then he extends his hand. Agreed. They shake, and something shifts in the room. A realignment of power, subtle but significant. I've just changed the game, I realize. Not through force or intimidation, but through strategy and intelligence. The skills I developed in my old life, dismissed by the Whitmores as irrelevant, have become the foundation of something new. We leave the Castellano house with more than we came for. An ally, a plan, and, for the first time, genuine hope. But hope, I'm learning, is a fragile thing in this world, and the Morettis are not finished yet. The news comes 3 days before Luca's deadline. Gianni Moretti has been seen in Boston, far from his uncle's territory, asking questions about me. Not threatening questions, concerned ones. He wants to know if I'm safe, if I'm being treated well, if I'm happy. It's a tactic, Marco insists when we discuss it in the study. Trying to appear sympathetic, so you'll reconsider his offer. Maybe. I frown at the report. Or maybe he actually cares. He didn't seem cruel at the meeting. He's Moretti. And I'm Caruso. I set down the papers. Does that automatically make me a criminal? A bad person? Marco is silent for a long moment. Then he sighs. No, it doesn't. But the world we live in, the world you've entered, makes assumptions based on family, Clara. It's not fair, but it's real. I know. I move to the window, watching the evening light fade over Boston's rooftops. That's why I'm trying to change it. This plan, the financial pressure, the Castellano alliance, it's not just about saving my family's businesses. It's about proving there's another way, that we don't have to keep repeating the same cycles of violence and revenge forever. You really believe that's possible? I turn to face him. I have to, because the alternative, spending the rest of my life in this fortress, looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next attack, that's not living, that's just surviving. Marco crosses. To me, and there's something different in his expression now. Soft, vulnerable, entirely unlike the warrior I've come to know. Clara, don't. I hold up a hand. Whatever you're going to say, don't. Not yet. I can't afford to complicate things right now. And after, when this is over? I meet his eyes and the question hangs between us, loaded with possibility. Ask me then. He nods slowly, accepting the boundary without challenging it. But as he turns to leave, I catch the hint of a smile. On his face, the first genuine smile I've seen from him in weeks. You're going to win this, you know, he says from the doorway. I didn't believe it at first, but now you're going to win. I hope he's right. The deadline arrives on a Tuesday, a grey, rain-soaked October morning that feels somehow appropriate for a showdown. Isabella Castellano has made her calls. The banks have triggered their clauses. And according to our intelligence, Luca Moretti woke this morning to discover that his brilliant acquisition strategy has become a financial sinkhole that threatens to drag down the entire Moretti operation. We meet at the same restaurant as before, but the dynamic has shifted dramatically. Luca enters with only Gianni, no advisors, no backup. His face is composed, but I can see the strain around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. He knows he's been outmaneuvered. Dominic. He takes his seat without waiting for an invitation. Clara, I assume you know why I'm here. You want to discuss terms, I say before my father can respond. The financial pressure on your holdings is unsustainable. The loans you use to acquire our businesses are being called in, and your traditional allies, I let the implication hang, are watching to see which way the wind blows. Luca's smile is bitter. Yes, I underestimated you, Clara Caruso. I won't make that mistake again. Then let's talk like equals. I lean forward. Not as families at war, but as people who want the same thing: stability, prosperity, an end to generations of bloodshed. Luca's eyes narrow. What are you proposing? Return the businesses, call off any operations targeting Caruso interests. In exchange, we pursue the alliance you originally suggested, but on genuinely equal terms. Partnership, not domination. Cooperation, not control. And the marriage? Off the table. For good. I glance at Gianni, who's watching me with an expression I can't read. I mean, no offense to your nephew, but I won't be anyone's pawn, not even for peace. Silence stretches across the table. Then, surprisingly, Gianni speaks. Uncle. His voice is quiet but firm. Accept the terms. This is the best outcome we could hope for. Luca turns to stare at his nephew. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side of sanity. Gianni meets his uncle's gaze without flinching. We overreached, we were arrogant, and now we have a chance to salvage something meaningful from this mess. Take it. The moment stretches, tension crackling in the air. Then Luca laughs, a short, harsh sound entirely unlike his usual smooth chuckle. My nephew, the diplomat. He shakes his head. Very well, Clara Caruso. You win. The business is returned to your father's control. The alliance proceeds on equal terms, and He pauses, something shifting in his expression. I underestimated the daughter of Elena Caruso. That was my mistake. It's a mistake a lot of people have made. I extend my hand. But it doesn't have to define. What comes next? Luca looks at my hand for a long moment. Then he takes it, his grip firm. To new beginnings, he says. To new beginnings. The handshake seals something more than a business arrangement. It seals a shift in how both families will operate going forward, not as enemies circling each other, waiting for the chance to strike, but as partners navigating the changing world together. As we leave the restaurant, my father pulls me into a fierce embrace. You did it, he murmurs against my hair. My daughter, my miracle. You did it. We did it. I hold him tight. All of us. Marco hangs back, giving us space, but when I catch his eye, he's smiling. Not a warrior's smile, not a strategist's satisfaction, something warmer, something that makes my heart skip in ways I'm not quite ready to examine. The rain has stopped by the time we reach the compound. Late afternoon sunlight breaks through the clouds, gilding Boston's rooftops in gold. And standing in the garden, surrounded by my mother's roses, still blooming despite the season, a last burst of color before winter. I feel something I haven't felt since before the divorce. Peace. Real, sustainable peace. Clara. Vincent appears at the garden gate. You have a visitor. I frown. Who? Someone from your previous life. His expression is carefully neutral. A Mrs. Whitmore. She insists on speaking with you. My blood runs cold. Margaret Whitmore. Here. Now. Send her away, I start to say, but something stops me. Maybe it's the confidence I've found in the past months. Maybe it's curiosity, Or maybe it's the simple desire to face down the woman who spent 7 years making me feel worthless. I'll see her. Margaret enters the garden like she owns it, her posture perfect, her pearls gleaming. But there's something different about her, a nervousness in her eyes that I've never seen before. Clara. She stops a few feet away. I wasn't sure you'd agree to see me. I almost didn't. I cross my arms. What do you want, Margaret? She takes a deep breath. I came to apologize. Whatever I was expecting, it wasn't this. Apologize? When you married Richard, I was unkind, cruel even. I told myself it was for his own good, that you weren't suitable, that you'd bring shame to the family. She laughs bitterly. The irony. We discovered recently that the Whitmore fortune is built on generations of fraud, securities violations, tax evasion, criminal conspiracy. The feds are circling. By this time next year, we'll be lucky to have anything left. I stare at her, waiting. I realized, she continues, that all those years I spent looking down on you for having no family, no legacy. I was the one without a legacy worth having. The Whitmores have been pretending for generations, and you, she gestures at the compound around us, you found the truth about who you are. You found real family, real strength. Is that an apology or a confession? Margaret's composure cracks, just slightly. Both. I came to tell you that I was wrong about everything, and to ask if there's any chance you might forgive me. I consider her for a long moment. This woman who dismissed me, belittled me, convinced her son I was disposable. Part of me wants to send her away with the same coldness she showed me for 7 years, but another part, the part that's grown stronger in these months, the part that faced down Luca Moretti and refused to be a pawn, recognizes something in her eyes. Fear, vulnerability, the dawning awareness that power built on cruelty is no power at all. I can't forgive you for everything, I say finally. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I can tell you this. The woman you tried to destroy no longer exists. Clara Whitmore, timid, apologetic, desperate to belong, she's gone. I'm Clara Caruso now, and Clara Caruso doesn't need your apology to know her worth. Margaret's eyes fill with tears. I understand. But, I continue, if you genuinely want to be different, if you want to build something better with whatever time you have left, then start now. Be kind to someone who can't give you anything in return. Be honest when lying would be easier. Be the person you pretend to be at charity galas, but for real this time. She nods slowly, wiping her eyes. Thank you for seeing me, for saying that. Vincent will show you out. I watch her go, and something settles in my chest. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but closure. The Whitmores no longer have power over me. They never really did. I just believed they did. And that belief died the moment I signed those divorce papers. That evening, the compound is quiet. Dominic has retired early, exhausted from the day's events. The staff moves through the halls like ghosts, efficient and invisible. And I sit in the garden as twilight deepens into night, watching stars emerge above the city. Mind if I join you? Marco appears from the shadows, and the sight of him sends warmth spreading through my chest. Please. He settles onto the bench beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touch. For a long moment neither of us speaks, just two people breathing in the October air, surrounded by roses that should have died weeks ago. You asked me something, I say finally. After this was over, you said to ask you then. I remember. I'm asking. I turn to face him, and his eyes are soft in the starlight. What were you going to say? Marco is quiet for a moment, gathering words. When he speaks, his voice is low and steady. I've spent 15 years protecting this family. I've given everything I have to Dominic, to the name, to the cause. I never questioned it, never wanted anything else. He pauses. Until you. My heart stutters. You came into this world a stranger, but you changed it. You changed me. And I know the timing is terrible. And I know there are 100 reasons why this is complicated, but... He reaches for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. I care about you. Clara, more than I should, more than makes sense, and I don't want to spend another day pretending otherwise. The stars wheel overhead, the roses perfume the air, and in this garden planted by a mother I never knew, I make a choice. Then don't, I whisper. Don't pretend. His hand tightens around mine. Clara. Whatever comes next, whatever challenges we face, whatever complications arise, we'll face them together. I lean closer until I can feel the warmth radiating from his skin. That's what I want. That's who I choose. Marco's smile is slow, brilliant, transforming his hard features into something beautiful. Then that's who you'll have. He kisses me then, gentle and fierce all at once, and the world narrows to this single perfect moment, two people finding each other in the aftermath of chaos, choosing connection over isolation, hope over fear. The night deepens around us, but I barely notice, because for the first time in 32 years, I am exactly where I belong. 6 months later, spring arrives in Boston like a promise kept. The compound is transformed. The gardens burst with new growth, not just the roses now, but beds of tulips, rows of lavender, a vegetable garden that Dominic tends himself on quiet mornings. The brownstone has been renovated, opened up, modernized without losing its historic charm. And everywhere there are signs of change, new faces, new projects, new possibilities. The alliance with the Castellanos has exceeded all expectations. Together, our families have launched a foundation supporting community development in underserved neighborhoods, job training, affordable housing, after-school programs. It's not charity, it's investment. Building the kind of city where children don't have to choose between crime and poverty, where families have options beyond survival. Luca Moretti, true to his word, has proven a reliable partner. Not a friend, we may never be friends, but a colleague who understands that cooperation serves everyone better than conflict. Gianni has become an unexpected ally, his idealism tempering his uncle's pragmatism. I've heard rumors that he's involved with someone new, someone entirely outside the family business, and I hope it's true. He deserves happiness that isn't conditional on politics. The Whitmores have faded from the society pages, their empire crumbling under federal investigation. Richard, I'm told, has fled to Europe, hoping to escape the fallout. I don't spare him much thought. He was a chapter in my life, not the story. As for me, I'm standing in my mother's garden on a warm April afternoon, wearing a simple white dress, watching my father walk toward me with tears streaming down his face. "You look just like her," Dominic says, for what must be the 100th time. "Your mother would be so proud." "I know." I take his arm. "She's here, isn't she? Somehow. I can feel her." He nods, unable to speak. The ceremony is small. Family, close friends, the people who have become my community in these transformative months. Isabella Castellano sits in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Vincent stands at attention near the garden gate, looking almost proud. And waiting at the altar, surrounded by flowers my mother planted, stands Marco. The officiant speaks of love, commitment, partnership, and I hear the words through a haze of joy. When the time comes for vows, Marco takes both my hands in his. "Clara," he says, and his voice carries to every corner of the garden. "I spent most of my life believing I didn't deserve this. Love, family, happiness. I thought my job was to protect from the shadows, never to step into the light. And then you arrived, and you challenged everything I thought I knew." He pauses, emotion flickering across his features. "You taught me that strength isn't about walls and weapons. It's about opening your heart to someone, risking everything, choosing hope over fear. You are the bravest person I've ever known. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of the trust you've placed in me." Tears blur my vision. "Marco," I manage, "I came into this world lost. I spent 32 years not knowing who I was, where I belonged, if I mattered to anyone. And then I found this family, my family, and I found you. You've protected me, yes, but more than that, you've challenged me, pushed me to be stronger, braver, more myself than I ever thought possible. You see me, not a pawn, not a symbol, not a bargaining chip, just me, Clara, and that's all I ever wanted. I squeeze his hands tight. I choose you, Marco Vittori. Today and every day. Whatever comes next, we face it together. When we kiss, the garden erupts in applause, and for one shining moment, all the pain and fear and uncertainty of the past year falls away. There is only this: two people who found each other against all odds, surrounded by family who refused to give up hope. The reception spills from the garden into the compound's renovated event space, where Italian food and wine flow freely, and the music alternates between traditional songs and modern beats. I dance with Dominic, with Vincent, with cousins I'm still learning names for. I catch up with the few friends from my old life who weren't scared off by the Whitmore rumors, graphic designer colleagues who are thrilled to learn I'm finally free from that stifling marriage. And throughout it all, Marco's hand finds mine again and again, anchoring me to this beautiful, improbable present. As the evening winds down and guests begin to drift away, I slip out to the garden alone. The roses are in full bloom now, their fragrance heavy in the warm air. I kneel beside them, trailing my fingers over the soft petals. I don't know if you can hear me, I whisper, but I want you to know I'm home. Finally home. And I'm going to make you proud, Mama. Both of you. She knows. I look up to find Dominic standing a few feet away, his face peaceful in the fading light. She always knew you'd come back to us, he continues. Even when everyone else lost hope, she believed. And look, his gesture encompasses the garden, the compound, the new family I've built around us. Look what that belief created. I rise and take my father's hand. I love you, Papa. He pulls me into an embrace, and his voice is rough with emotion. Ti amo, figlia mia. Forever. We stand there as stars begin to emerge overhead, the same stars that witnessed my first kiss with Marco. The same stars that have shone over generations of Carusos. And I think about all the paths that led to this moment, the kidnapping, the foster homes, the failed marriage, the desperate day I signed divorce papers in front of a family who thought I was nothing. They were wrong. I was never nothing. I am Clara Caruso, daughter of Dominic and Elena. I am a strategist, a mediator, a bridge between old ways and new. I am a wife, soon perhaps a mother. I am the culmination of my mother's faith and my father's determination. And I am, at long last, home. The night my mother planted these roses, she couldn't have known what the future held. She couldn't have known that her daughter would be stolen, that decades would pass in grief and searching, that hope itself would become an act of courage. But she planted the roses anyway. She chose to believe in beginnings. And because she did, I'm standing here now, surrounded by love, wrapped in family, stepping into a future bright with possibility. Some stories end with happily ever after. This one is just beginning. If you've watched this far, it's because you liked this story. Leave a comment saying, "I've watched this far," so I can get to know you and see who really enjoys the stories here on the channel. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to believe that it's never too late to find where you belong. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because stories like this don't end. They grow, and the best chapters are still to come.